Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening at America House Kyiv. So we're going to talk about a very important part of any application process, whether it's for a university, for an exchange program, even for a job. But of course, mostly what we're going to be talking about today is letters of recommendation for university applications, okay? So let's get started. Hello, welcome. Please take a seat. All right. So first, let's start with what is Education USA. For those of you in the room, whose first time is it at an Education USA event? A couple of you. Okay. So some of you know what we do, some of you don't. So we are a global network. We are the official network of the United States State Department. We work all around the world. We have more than 430 centers, and we are supported by the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. So we are the official source official government source about U.S. higher education. So you know that any information you get from us is fair, unbiased, complete, and updated, okay? And we work with all accredited American universities, so we do not promote any particular colleges. We work with all accredited universities to help you find your best fit, right? To help you find the best option for you. And because we are an official network of the State Department, everything we do is free, okay? So all of our lectures, all of our events, everything is free, okay? We have one main center here in Kyiv on Esplanada 20. This is near Palat Sportu. And also Window on America centers are our official partners. So are you all from Kyiv? Yes, I'm assuming so, yes. But if you're joining us online, if you do not live in Kyiv, then you can turn to your local Window on America center and they have lots of resources. Here's our contact info. We'll talk more about that later. All right. So, let me ask you first, are you all planning on applying to American universities? Is that why you're here? Okay. Who is thinking about, undergraduate programs, so bachelor degree programs? Okay. Master's degree programs? PhD? Other options? Exchange programs? Maybe? Who knows? We'll see. Okay, good. So, побачимо, yeah? Great. So when you're looking at, for example, we have undergraduate and graduate applications here. So when you have all of these things, your academic history, test scores, extracurricular activities, essays, writing samples, what is the last thing that's still missing from your application? Recommendation letter. Yes, and more specifically, what kind of information is missing here? What else do you think that the admissions committee would want to know about you that you don't see here? Okay, your qualities, yes, absolutely. Anything else? Okay, let me ask this question first. What is a letter of recommendation? Maybe we should start there. Who knows? Yes. Why don't you speak to the microphone so we make sure that
it is a letter. It is a letter which is written by our teachers from school, for example, and our teachers should list our achievements in here and our qualities that help us to achieve these things, I guess.
Yes, good. Okay, other thoughts? Any other ideas about recommendation letters? Yes, so you're absolutely right. So for graduate and undergraduate, they will come from different people. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But as you can see here, your academic history, your test scores, things like that, that's all sort of, those are numbers, right? Numbers about you. And along with your essay and your letter of recommendation, they get to know you more personally. They get to understand what makes you unique. Hello. Which is really important. And it's especially important for them to get opinions from somebody else who knows you, right? Your essay is your chance to write about yourself, but the letters of recommendation are really important for them to understand how other people feel about you, okay? So that really helps fill out what kind of a person you are. Who right now is in the process of applying to colleges or universities? Just one person. Okay. The rest of you are thinking about it, right? Ви думаєте про це. Okay. So that's what a recommendation letter is and why it's important. So again, these are some things that could be included, could be important to highlight in a recommendation letter. Because again, these are things that might not be seen other places in your application, right? That's really important. We'll talk about this a little bit more later, but it's really important that in the letter of recommendation, letters of recommendation, information is included that's not seen elsewhere in your application. Okay, so don't repeat information that's already in the other parts of the application. Make sure that you use this as an opportunity, or your recommenders use this as an opportunity to highlight other things about you. All right. So you mentioned teachers can write letters of recommendation for you. Who else could write letters of recommendation for you?
Director from the job, maybe.
Okay, like a supervisor or a director, sure. Okay, good. Other ideas? Хто може писати рекомендаційний лист? Absolutely, yes, good. Other ideas? You are all absolutely right. But there's also people who should not write a letter of recommendation, okay? You must not write your own letter of recommendation. We'll talk about this more later, but you know, often students say, well, my teacher doesn't know how to write one, or they don't know English, so can I just write it and have them sign it? Never, ever, ever do that. That's a very serious problem. So don't do that. And it should not be a family member or a close friend, okay? Because of course your mother or your babushka thinks that you are wonderful and you are the best person in the world and you are such a zirochka. And that's great, but they really want to hear from more professional sources, teachers, things like that, okay? So again, a teacher, a supervisor, or a mentor, and check with the application requirements, okay? For those of you who have already done some research about universities, you'll see that on the university's website, usually they tell you who they want recommendation letters from. So they always give you some guidance about this. You're not usually left to guess about what they want. All right. So it should definitely be someone who knows your skills, accomplishments, and personality, and again, can help fill in any missing information from your application. So again, this could be something it should be something that's not seen elsewhere in your application. So for example, maybe you don't have a lot of volunteering experience, let's put it that way. But you still might be able to ask a recommender, maybe a teacher or someone you work with, or someone who supervises you, to talk about, I don't know, your good qualities, how you like to help other people, even if you don't have volunteer experience on your resume, for example. This could also be used to sort of maybe fill in some gaps. So maybe, for example, if you're applying for graduate programs, master's degrees, PhD degrees, maybe you don't have a lot of work experience, and that might be kind of a weakness in your application. So it'd be a great idea to have a supervisor or someone you work with to talk about what a hard worker you are, to say, you know, she or he doesn't have a lot of experience on their resume, but he or she has a lot of potential, they're a really hard worker, they have a good work ethic, things like that. So you can sort of use it to fill in any missing information, or to fill in some of those gaps, those weaknesses in your application, okay? And this person should be your biggest cheerleader, right? You want to ask somebody who really likes you and believes in you and respects you and wants to help you get where you want to go, whether it's to university or to an exchange program or even for a job, okay? Again, check the application requirements. For undergraduate applications, this will usually be teachers or coaches, maybe a community leader that you've worked or volunteered with. But again, they will usually tell you, send us one from a professional contact, send us one from a teacher or a professor. Okay, so they'll tell you what they want. Make sure that you follow their instructions, okay? This is really, really, really important. The second point, if you don't walk away from this presentation with anything else, please understand this. Avoid asking people who do not know you well, even if they have an important title or position, or if they have strong language skills, okay? What's really important about letters of recommendation is that the person can write specifically about you, can tell specific anecdotes maybe, or experiences they had with you, okay? Barack Obama could write a letter of recommendation for you, but if he can't say anything specific about how he knows you, it's not going to mean anything to them. If, you know, someone just writes, well, she's a hard worker, she has a great attitude, I definitely recommend her for university, that doesn't have a lot of meaning, even if it comes from Barack Obama, okay? So please avoid this mistake. it's better to have a letter from someone who may not have a fancy title or a really impressive name or resume if they can really speak about you personally. Okay, that's more important than anything else. And they don't necessarily need to have strong language skills. We'll return to this later, but again, don't just ask somebody if they have strong language skills if they don't know you personally, okay? Especially if you're going to, all of you are obviously Ukrainians applying to American universities. You may think, oh, I should find an American to write me a letter of recommendation. But if they don't know you well, that doesn't matter, okay? Are there any questions about that?
What about mentor? It can be maybe like my big brother. It's like a person I know and he knows me.
Mm-hmm.
And, he has a job maybe. And,
Mm-hmm.
he could write about me something, but he isn't somebody who see me every day like a teacher, professor. I don't know.
Right.
Who's connecting with me, contact me officially.
Yeah, so is this, when you say big brother, do you mean like biologically your actual brother? Okay, okay.
It's like the man I met recently, and he knows me, and
Yeah, sure. So yes, again, I don't know if you were here at the beginning of the presentation, but in general, family members should not write letters of recommendation. But I understand you're asking about something else. Yes, it can be sort of a more unofficial mentor. Again, if they will have to explain how they, in the letter, how they know you, how long they have known you, and in what capacity you have worked together or how you know each other. So if they can explain that and it's relevant, again, as long as they can speak well about you, they're a cheerleader for you, that can be great. But again, it shouldn't just be a friend or something like that. It should be someone with whom you have some kind of official relationship. Does that answer your question? Yeah, okay. Other questions about this? At any time during the presentation, if you have questions, please just interrupt me. Okay. So talking about who you should choose a little bit more. Again, how well he or she knows you. That's the most important thing. What he or she knows about you, renown in their field. Again, they don't necessarily have to have an important title, but they should be good at what they do. Okay, so they should have obviously some experience in the position that they are in. And again, their title, how do they know you? It's better to have, for example, a supervisor or a boss write a letter of recommendation for you than maybe a peer or a colleague, right? It's better to have somebody who's sort of above you that can speak well about your abilities as opposed to someone who's on your same level, okay? For PhD programs, you should choose, again, for PhD, this is more of an academic program, right? So they're going to want, universities are going to want to see more academic references rather than professional. And again, they want to see professors from your previous studies who have worked closely with you, and again, know and are known in your field. So this should be related to your field of study. So if you want to go get your PhD in biochemistry, you probably should not have your Spanish professor write a letter for you. They could, but it's better to have someone who's related to the field you're applying to, right? And again, you can include an employer, but for PhD programs, they're going to want to see more academic references. Again, on the website, they will tell you exactly what they want and how many. For master's programs, you should ask yourself, is that a professional program or an academic program, right? Because some master's programs are more career-oriented. They prepare you to start a career after your master's degree. And some of them are preparing you for to go into a PhD degree, right? They're more academic. So if it's a professional program, they'll want to see employers as well as professors. If it's more academic, they'll want to see more professors, okay? But again, you see on all of these points, it says knows you well. That's the most important thing, okay? All right, so you figured out who you want to ask. So what do you do next? And make sure you allow enough time to really think strategically about who you want to ask, because obviously you want to ask somebody who can speak well about you and also somebody who you believe is a good writer and will be able to not only speak well about you, but actually write the letter well, okay? So give yourself some time to really think about who you want to write these letters, okay? This is an important part of your application. So if you're thinking of applying for undergraduate programs, what do? Mostly this will probably be teachers. They'll probably want one from a teacher, and then at least one more from some kind of school leader. In American schools, this is a guidance counselor usually, which there isn't exactly the same equivalent in Ukrainian schools, but it might be a sociologist at the school, or even the director, or someone, again, who is more of a mentor to you and can speak about your qualities. So talk to your teachers well ahead of the deadline. Make sure you talk with them about your accomplishments, challenges, and tell them, what are your future goals? Why are you applying to an American university? Why do you feel that American education is important to you, and how do you think that will help you reach your goals? So make sure that you speak with them about why you're doing what you're doing, so that will help them understand your motivation and why you want to do this. Prepare a resume for undergraduate that might not be so relevant because you probably don't have work experience, but still you can prepare a list of activities you're involved with, volunteering you've done, leadership positions you've had if they don't already know about those things. And it's nice to come up with a list of bullet points for them to include in the letter just to help guide them, right? And then provide them with all necessary information they need sort of about the logistics, right? Make sure you tell them about deadlines. That's super important. Tell them how these letters need to be submitted, whether it's in hard copy. Most of them are online now, but give them all the information they need. And the reason that you really should help your recommenders is because they're doing you a big favor. If they take the time to do this well, and hopefully they will. It takes a lot of time and effort for them to think about what they want to say about you and put it all together in a well-written letter and things like that. Send it to the university. So they're doing you a big favor, so try to help them out and make their job as easy as possible. So then for graduate studies, probably these will be professors that you may not be living in the same city with anymore. If they were your professors in undergraduate, now maybe you're working in a different city, in a different country even. So it's more appropriate probably to write them an email and set up a time to meet in person if possible. But if that's not possible, maybe set up a time to talk over Skype or something like that, or even have a phone call so you can really have the conversation with them that needs to take place. Here's an example of an email. There is a mistake I want to draw your attention to. I wanted to come in to speak with you about this. Give that a read. As you know, I'm applying to master's programs at U.S. universities this year. I wanted to come in to speak with you about this. The universities require letters of recommendation, and I would like to ask you to write one of my letters. So that you better understand why I'm applying to these programs and what my goals are, I would like to come meet with you. Could we set up a time to meet later this week? Thank you. So it's brief, they get to the point, it's polite, and then hopefully this professor will want to write a letter of recommendation for you, so they will respond saying, absolutely, let's find a time to meet. And once you find a time to meet together, either with a professor for graduate program or with a teacher if you're applying for undergraduate programs, what should you bring with you? A list of reminders of what you did with that professor or teacher, mentor, things like that, because they have a lot of students, and even if they really like you and you were one of their favorite students or whatever, still, especially with time, sometimes their memories can fade, so it's a good idea to remind them, this is what we did together, these are the classes I took with you, and things like that. A short description of the program that you are applying to, so they can understand what the program is looking for and how you would be a good fit for that program, so they can include some of that information in their letter. And optional could be a sample letter or instructions. So we'll get to that in a moment. So included in this list of reminders, again, could be how do you know each other? Hopefully they remember, but if not, it's a good idea to remind them. Some of your biggest achievements that your recommender knows about you, okay? Anything else that you think is important? Again, bring this in a bulleted list form. Make sure it's clear, concrete, specific. Again, this is something that they're doing for you on top of all of the other work they have to do. So try to make it easy, clear, so they can just see exactly what they should include, okay? And then a short description of the program, like I mentioned, these programs that you are applying to. Should be written by you. You could pull some things off of the website, off of the university's website, again, to highlight what exactly is important to the university. But it's great if it's paraphrased by you, so the recommender can see what's important to you about this program. Should be short, and again, include a sentence or two about why you like this program, why it's good for you, because then the recommender will be able to speak in the letter and say, you know, Stanford University searches for students that are innovative and creative and humble. Andrew displays all of these qualities, right? So they can include specific information about the program and why it would be a good fit for you. And the last one, a sample letter or instructions if you think it's appropriate. So many of you may ask for recommendations from people who have not written one for an American university or program before. So they might say, I really have no idea what to do. What should this look like? If you think that's the case, it's not a bad idea to bring a sample letter. Try to find a good sample letter. Don't send them a bad one, right? But ask them if that would be helpful to them. They might say, no, I'm fine, I know what I'm doing. But if you think that maybe they have never done this before, they might not know what to do, it's a good idea to bring it along. But make sure the writer knows that he or she should not copy it, right? They should not take this letter and just change the name. Make it clear, right, because that's plagiarism. Make it clear that this is just, here's sort of what the format should look like. These are the main points you should include. So that can be just sort of guidelines, not something they should copy. We'll talk about that last point here. Again, when you meet with this person, make sure that the writer knows it is his or her right and duty to write honestly, so they should be honest about you. That you won't see the recommendations afterwards. This is really important. Usually universities and exchange programs will ask you to waive your right to see the recommendations. That means that you agree to say, I will not have access to these recommendations, I will not see them, okay? You do not have to waive your right, but it's highly recommended that you do, because that means that your recommenders can write honestly about you, right? If you're concerned about this, if you're thinking, I would like to see the recommendation because I don't know what they will write about me, probably you should not be asking that person to write a recommendation for you, right? So if you don't feel comfortable agreeing not to read the recommendations, then maybe you should think about asking somebody else, okay? So usually there will be a checkbox on the application that you fill out where you say, I waive my right to see recommendations. But again, make this clear to your recommenders as well so they know, like, just please be honest, please be open, I will not be seeing these, okay? Make sure you highlight the deadlines, okay? Give them plenty of time because they have other things. They're doing this on top of all their other work. So it's usually a good idea to ask them at minimum 1 month in advance, but really 2 months in advance is better, okay? All right, here's some final tips. We have questions a lot about whether or not recommenders can write letters in Ukrainian. And the answer is yes, and I sort of mentioned this before. It's better to get a good letter that's in Ukrainian and have it translated than to ask somebody just because they can speak English if they can't speak specifically about you, okay? So it's better to have a good letter from someone who knows you well and it's in Ukrainian than the alternative, okay? So they can write it in Ukrainian and then you'll just have to get it translated. You or one of the English teachers at your school could translate it and get an official stamp from your school on it, or you could take it to like a professional translator or something like that. So it's absolutely okay, and the school, the university, will ask for both copies, okay? So that's absolutely fine. Check their requirements, and as with anything related to U.S. universities, it's always a good idea to ask if you're not sure. If you can't find information on their website about translations, just send the admissions office an email and ask to clarify. Again, we already talked about this, but this is the typical statement that you might see on the university website. On your side of the application, I do waive my right to access, and I understand I will never see this form or any other recommendations submitted by me or on my behalf. Okay, so sometimes in addition to a letter, the recommender may have to fill out sort of a little form or survey about you, like rate this candidate's leadership qualities from 1 to 10, 1 being weak and 10 being strong. Okay, so that may also be an extra component that you will want to tell your recommender about. Deadlines, again, make sure they're clear, be clear with them, follow up a week or so before the deadline, just to remind them. Probably the university will send them a reminder as well, an official reminder, but still, it's not a bad idea to check in and say, hey, just wanted to remind you this deadline is coming up in a week. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. With all of this, it's not a bad idea to send them by email, like a nice little even chart explaining everything and what you need from them. So sort of a summary of your programs, deadlines for each of the programs if you're asking them for more than one. So again, just try to make their job easier. After they write the recommendation, don't forget to say thank you because they put in a lot of time and effort and it means they're interested in your future. So it can also be good to send them an update and say, I got into that school that you wrote a recommendation for. Thank you so much. Yes?
Well, I'm a bit confused. So teachers can write the motivational the recommendation letter in Ukrainian and I don't have to translate it?
Yes, you will have to get it translated because unfortunately most American universities do not know Ukrainian.
Do I need to translate it by myself?
You could, but you would have to get make sure you have an official stamp from your school on both copies, yeah.
That means that I have access to the recommendation letter.
Oh, that's a good point. I'm so sorry, I misspoke, yes. Good point, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, so in that case, it would be better to give it to either an English teacher at your school and have them be sort of the intermediary, have them get it from the recommender, or again, have somebody take it to a translation service for you. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. I was thinking about transcripts. With transcripts, you can translate that yourself and get it stamped, but with recommendation letters, you should not. You're right. Yeah, so have someone help you out with that so you do not see the letter, unless the teacher or professor is okay with you seeing the letter. So again, just have a conversation with them about that. Good, thank you for pointing that out. Most of the time, recommendations are submitted online now. Sometimes they will accept hard copies, but I can't imagine that it will be easier for your recommenders to mail it to the United States rather than submit it online, so that's probably going to be easiest for them anyway. But again, there's usually a portal online where you have all of your application materials, and they will have a section about letters of recommendation. You'll input contact information for your recommenders, their email address, name, everything like that, and the university will contact them on your behalf about the recommendations, okay? But if for some reason your recommenders really want to send a hard copy, mail it to the States, usually there's an option for that. Some universities will not accept it. Again, just check with what each university individually requires, okay? All right. Who writes the letter? Again, I want to underscore that you must not write your own letter of recommendation. It's very, very serious because American universities take academic integrity very, very seriously. So if they found out that you wrote your own letter and just had your recommender sign it and say they wrote it, probably your application would be thrown in the trash. Okay, it's very serious. And they will be able probably to tell that you wrote it. American universities, most admissions officers are quite smart. They've seen these things a lot, unfortunately. So they will be able to tell. You won't get away with it. And when they find out, they will probably not accept your application. Okay, so again, if you're concerned, you're thinking, they don't know how to write a letter of recommendation. They say they don't have time. They just told me to do it, because that happens as well. Is the professor, the supervisor will say, you just write it, write whatever you want and I'll sign it. Say, no, I'm sorry, that's not okay, I can't do that. But again, show them sample letters if they want, and again, give them that list of bullet points about things to include. So you're making their job super easy, so they have no need to copy anything. You don't need to write it for them. Make their job easy, okay? You can, I don't think we will watch this video, but you could also send them a little YouTube video. This one I think is 2 minutes long. So you could also send them a little YouTube video about how to write a letter of recommendation, and they can see what exactly they should include. Okay, so just help them out if necessary. We're gonna skip that, okay. Here's sort of an example of a bad recommendation letter, just to show you some examples of things that your recommenders shouldn't do. Again, you probably will not see the letter, so you wouldn't be able to catch these sort of things, but still, You can give some of these tips to your recommenders, and maybe someday you will end up writing a recommendation letter for somebody else, so this stuff is good to know. We see some of these vague phrases like initiate fruitful interpersonal synergies. That sounds very impressive, but it doesn't really mean anything, right? Like, what exactly does that mean, right? They say they regularly show up on time, which is not as good as always shows up on time, right? So we see a lot of things here that are not so good. So again, this is why you need to be very strategic about who you ask for your letters of recommendation. If you think they may not write you a great recommendation, they might talk about some of your faults. She takes too much initiative, something like that. Don't ask them. And again, make sure it's somebody who can write specifically about you. Okay, like here we see with which she has accomplished a great deal of things. What things? What has she accomplished? I want to know more details. So ask somebody who can write specifically about you. All right. So again, these are actually some tips or bullet points you could send to a recommender if you really think that they haven't written a letter before, they're not sure what to do, or again, if you might end up writing a letter of recommendation someday yourself. But to highlight a couple things, again, specific examples are really important. Vague statements, again, about she's a hard worker, she has done a lot of great things, we really appreciate her, I recommend her, that doesn't help. So again, this is where providing that list of some specific examples they could talk about will be really helpful for them, okay? Ask them, you can guide them, again, to provide information not found elsewhere in the application, or to sort of fill in some of those gaps that I mentioned earlier. So you can send a note to them and say, really, my GPA from my final year of school is really not great, but since you're my teacher, maybe you could write about, that I'm academically strong and you believe in my ability to compete in this program, right? So you can ask them to help fill in some of those gaps if you're not sure about it. Good. These are all points that we have already talked about. As with all parts of your application, but especially the written parts, like your essay or a statement of purpose and these letters, this is really important that they highlight what's unique about you. This is your opportunity. Again, this is not just numbers like your test results or your grades, things like that. This is a really important opportunity to talk about what makes you unique. Okay, because they are going to read thousands of applications, and so it's a great, this is really the best opportunity for you to have yourself stand out, and you can help your recommenders, guide them, and help them understand how they can make you seem unique, okay? And I have great news for you guys. You are already unique because you are Ukrainians. So most American universities don't receive a lot of applications from Ukrainian students, so that's already something unique about you, okay? Great. All right. These are what hurts in a letter of recommendation. Again, might not be a bad idea to send some of these tips to your recommenders. This is not an opportunity for your recommender to talk about themselves. Hopefully they would not do that. But really the first paragraph of the recommendation letter should be a brief introduction about who they are, what do they do, and how they know you. That's going to be really important to the recommender, is how long have you had this relationship with the student or potential student, future student, and what has been the nature of your relationship. Again, so if someone has known you for 2 months, again, that's really not going to be impressive because they're going to think, well, I don't think this person really knows this student very well. So make sure that they have sort of an introductory paragraph about who they are and how they know you, but really the rest of the letter should be about you. Make sure that they write the letters for each specific program. So they should not write one letter and then just change the address at the top for each program. They should really write letters that are specific to each program, especially on the graduate or PhD level, okay? It's a little bit less important for undergraduate, but it still matters, but definitely for graduate and PhD programs, these letters should be personalized for each individual program, because for graduate programs, master's programs, PhD programs, it's really important for the school to see why you are a good fit for that program, okay? Usually they're highly selective, they have small cohorts, so they really want to understand why do you and this program match each other, okay? And your recommender should highlight that. No vague language. You see, I've been mentioning this all the time. Faint praise without concrete examples and vague language. It's just not good. Tell them to be specific, be concrete, okay? Hopefully they will not have any typos, and especially with Ukrainian names. Sometimes there can be different ways to spell them, like Nastya. Some people spell it with a Y, some people spell it with an I. Same with Maria here. So make sure that you tell your professor or your recommender how you want them to write your name in English, and make sure that it's, tell them to make it consistent, okay? A laundry list. What is a laundry list? It means just a list of things that you've done. Okay, that does not really help for them to say, she does this at work, she manages this project, she organizes this, she works on this database. Just a list of things you do is not helpful. It should really be, you know, more about your personality, about your qualities, because supposedly this list of things that you do would already be somewhere in your resume about what you're doing, for example, in your professional work. But again, just a list of things you do or a list of characteristics about you, like she is generous and helpful and kind, is not really impressive. They should give more details about a time when you were kind or a time that they really experienced your generosity or your leadership. So those specific examples are really important. Yeah. Say what everyone else is saying. So again, probably you will need 2 or 3 letters of recommendation. So try to get letters of recommendation from people who can speak about you differently, in different ways, okay? So it's probably not a good idea to ask for letters of recommendation from 2 people who sort of know you in the same capacity and are going to write more or less the same thing about you, okay? So try to think about people who can write about you, sort of different sides of you. That's why they want to see usually professional letters and academic letters to talk about different sides of you. But also, again, think about that strategically when you're asking for those letters from your recommenders. And try to get recommenders who can speak about as many different sides of you as possible. Because universities really want a full picture of who you are. Great. All right, before we go on to contacts, are there any questions about letters of recommendation? Yeah. So you can help with this issue by maybe giving some guidelines to your recommender about how long it should be. Again, the university might have instructions about that on their website, yeah. But in general, a page is good. It could even go into 2 pages, but definitely not longer than 2 pages. That would be too much info, right? Like, it's better for the recommender to focus on 2 or 3 really great qualities about you and give examples about those, rather than to talk about 10 things that are great about you, and then it's 4 pages long and the university doesn't want to read that, okay? Yeah, so tell them to focus on 2 or 3 important qualities of you, and again, go into detail, be specific about those things. Too little info, again, this is all talking about vague language and things like that. If they only write a letter for you that's half a page long, there's probably not much detailed info in there, right? So, yeah. Did that answer your question? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Other questions? You look like maybe you have a question? Any other thoughts? Have any of you asked for letters of recommendation before? Yeah. Do you have any experience you can share that would be helpful? No? Okay. All right. Other questions? Будь-які питання? Нема. Okay. Great. Hopefully that means I covered everything well. But I guess what I want you to walk away with is knowing that this really is an important part of the application. I think students often think, okay, це найпростіше. I just have to ask them for the letters of recommendation and все, my job is done. But again, think very strategically about who you ask, help them, give them guidance so they can write good letters for you. The more help you give them, probably the better. Again, while still being honest, do not write for them and do not let them copy any other letters. But think strategically about who you ask. Ask them in advance, at least a month. at least a month. Probably 2 months is better. Follow up with them, say thank you, and help them out. And make sure like they can contact you if they have any questions during the process, because maybe you'll send them all the information at first, but then tell them, if you have any questions as you're going through everything, feel free to reach out and meet with them in person or have a conversation with them if you can, because they may have some questions and they might say, I'm really excited about your future. I'm really glad you asked me, but I would like to get to know you better. So they might say, can we meet up for coffee to talk about your goals or whatever like that? So just be open to making their job easy and be open to helping them out with whatever they need from you. All right. So here are all of our contacts. So for those of you, again, who it's your first time working with Education USA or coming to an Education USA event, and some of you didn't hear this at the beginning, but ми є офіційною мережею Державного департаменту США, тобто ми є офіційним джерелом інформації щодо вищої освіти в США. І все, що ми робимо безкоштовно. Okay, so everything, we have consultations, events, everything that we do is completely free. Okay. So ось цей наш сайт українською мовою, the first one, там дуже багато базової інформації щодо вищої освіти в США. So that's a great place to start, really just understand the system of higher education. І там, до речі, можна записатися на консультацію з нашими радниками. So there's a big red button on the side of our website. It says записатися на консультацію. You just choose date, advisor, topic, time, and we can speak with you по телефону, по скайпу, як вам зручно, if you don't live in Kyiv, or you can come to our center. Again, we're happy to answer any questions that you have about the application process or U.S. higher education all the way from the beginning to the end. So we're here to help you out. The second website is the global website. Там все англійською мовою. Again, there are a lot of resources there for searching for financial aid, sort of understanding how to start, what to do, how to find the right programs for you. So that's also, a great resource. Here's our Facebook page, Education USA Ukraine. There we have all of our events that we're always doing, so you can find out where we're doing presentations and where you can join us. If you don't know, we have lectures every Thursday at 5 p.m. here in America House, every Thursday without fail. So you can find all of those lectures on our Facebook page. And we always have them on different themes. Often we have American University representatives join us virtually, of course, and they give a presentation about something related to admissions and speak about their own universities, okay? YouTube, this is our YouTube channel. So right now we are streaming live on our YouTube channel. You'll be able to watch this lecture again. It will be on YouTube immediately after this presentation, and we post all of our previous lectures on YouTube. So you can go there. Lots of, again, videos about different topics. It's our Instagram, email, and if you could take our survey about this lecture, that would be wonderful. And, oops, sorry, let me go back. Brand new, our Telegram channel, we just started it, and our wonderful Telegram curator is always posting lots of information about scholarships, different programs, so that's a really great thing to subscribe to. She sends usually about one message a day, so it's not too much, but lots of good information right to your phone. Great. Any more questions since I've been talking? You remembered, yes?
I'm applying for undergraduate programs, and I chose science as my major, but I asked my history teacher as a person who will write a recommendation letter. Does it okay?
That's absolutely okay. Yeah, that's okay. So for undergraduate programs, usually the major is less important, as you probably know. So for undergraduate, that's really fine, yeah. Someone, again, as long as they can speak well about you, that's the most important thing. Because for undergraduate programs, they'll teach you everything you need to know about science, right? What they want to know about is, are you a good student? Do you work hard? What are you like in the classroom? Are you curious? Things like that. So that's absolutely fine.
Mm-hmm. How can I find a translating company, and do I need to mail them the recommendations of my teachers?
Mm-hmm.
This recommendation?
Yeah. Probably there are people who can do official translations somewhere in Kyiv. I mean, I think they're all over the place, like, these notaries, things like that. So let me ask my colleagues about if they have experience actually contacting any companies in Kyiv, and I can let you know. Come see me after the presentation, and I'll make sure I get your email. Because I don't know any off the top of my head, but I think they're all over the place, yeah. And then you would obviously send the documents to them, or someone would do it for you so you didn't see the recommendations. And then you would scan them or upload them online. Yes. Or your teachers would. Yes.
When the teachers finish to write the letter, they usually ask me to rewatch and edit. Do I need to
should you look it over? Again, that's a conversation that you should have with your teacher, and you should also look on the university. So they might require you to waive your right to see your recommendations, and if they do, then you just have a conversation with your teacher and say, I'm sorry, but I need to waive my right to see it. So that's a conversation you should have individually with the teacher.
Can understand whether I watched the recommendation.
Right. They don't. Basically, they're just counting on you to be honest. But if they're submitted electronically, there would be no way for you to see them, right? Because a lot of university websites will actually have this form online that they will send to the teacher. So the teacher will have to fill it out online, and they'll send it directly to the university. So there's no sort of way for you to even see that. Yeah.
The recommendation letter should be sent from the teacher's email or from the lyceums, for example.
Check on the university's requirements, but they usually want it to be from some kind of official email address. So not, whatever, starchild504@gmail.com. It should usually be from an official email address, yeah. Good. Any other questions? Okay, so then I will tell you about some роздаткові матеріали that I have here. So maybe some of you have heard about our biggest event every year, which is our виставка вищої освіти в США. І цього року це буде 2 листопада тут в Києві at the Hotel Intercontinental. And this is when representatives from American universities come to us in Kyiv, and you have the opportunity to speak with them directly, ask them questions about their universities, their programs, and how to get admitted. Again, the event is completely free, but it's a really wonderful opportunity for you to speak безпосередньо, not over email or over Skype or whatever, with American university representatives. So here I have information about the fair. This is actually a registration form, which you could fill out now and give it to me, or you can just fill out the registration form online, which is a little more eco-friendly. But still, here we have information about all of the universities that will be here. Okay, so please feel free to take these flyers. And next week, we will have a lecture, again, 5 p.m. here at America House, or you can watch it online. We always stream everything we do. But it will be a representative from Contra Costa Community College, and they will be coming to our fair. So you can watch the lecture next week and then meet this person when she comes to Ukraine on November 2nd, okay? So that's all I have. So please come take information about the fair if you're interested. And as you know, if you have any questions about U.S. higher education, any parts of the process, anything, we're here to help you. So please, звертайтеся.